This is WCRN Weekend with your host, Pat Rice.
You are now tuned in to another episode of WCRN Weekends with Pat Rice on AM 830. And today, joining me in studio is Mr. Harry Berkowitz, who's not only a successful marketeer for WCRN and once for the tobacco companies during their golden ages, but also runs his own local cable access station within the town of Northbridge. Harry has done a lot for and with the local communities and the surrounding areas, and we are here to talk with Harry about his journey into sales, television, and radio. Harry, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Okay, Pat. Glad to be here.
Could you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how it was growing up?
Well, first of all, I want to clarify. I don't own the local access station. I'm president of the corporation, so I oversee the operation. But I have a director, and he has a couple of staff members, and they are the ones that do all the work. So they make me look good because they do a good job.
Well, thank you for clearing that up for us, Harry.
I started out, I was born in Northbridge, still live in Northbridge. Married a girl from Northbridge right down the street from me. In fact, we've been married 47 years this week.
Hey, congratulations,
flies.
Harry.
And, I just grew up in the 50s and 60s, and it was the lifestyle that you hear about. It started out as a Leave It to Beaver situation, and we turned into the protest years, and that's the way my life was. It's a mirror of the 50s and 60s, you might say.
At what age did you realize that sales, marketing, and media was something that you wanted to pursue?
Well, even when I was really young, a kid, and I mean a real kid, my brother and I would market. We had a potholder business we started. We used to make the potholders at home, and then we'd sell them in the neighborhood, and we also made fake carnations around Mother's Day and sold those in the neighborhood. Little things like this. We're always looking to earn a buck here or there. Then, of course, in 66, I got a job with Christie & Thompson Auto Parts, which is now Fisher Auto Parts. I started working there as a delivery driver, and they had some screwdrivers on the counter that were on sale, 3 for $1. They weren't really selling. So I says to the store manager, Jim McGee, I says, Jim, if I take these out in a car, maybe I can sell them a lot quicker. So I did, as I made my deliveries. Well, I went through box after box. I cleaned out the warehouse. They were amazed. So then they started sending me all the stuff that you're trying to get rid of. And I sold it. So he turned around and said, look, this guy's a natural salesman. How about we put him on the road? So they did. They put me out on the road selling for that particular branch in Whitensville. And I did that up until 1968 when I got a greeting from Uncle Sam and went away for a couple of years in the U.S. Army. It was a great experience, by the way. But anyway, came back. They didn't have an opening at the Whitensville store, so they had to give me a job back, obviously. And they put me in the warehouse as a counterman. And, I took care of customers there, but wasn't the same. I didn't like being indoors. I always loved being outdoors. When I got that job, first job outdoors, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to be out in the environment, not stuck in a building all day. Well, I offered a job with Ramsdell and Van Dyke Auto Parts by John Ramsdell, the owner's son. They needed a guy on the road. He offered me the job, so I took it and worked for them until, from 1972 to 1974, so for about 2 years. And I knew there was not really a future in it because working for a small company, you're not much of a chance of going anywhere. And I saw an ad for a tobacco company, Brown & Williamson Tobacco, which no longer exists. So I answered it, and I got the job. Even though I didn't have a degree other than, high school. A high school degree was all I had.
Really?
But they saw that I had marketing skills and salesmanship that they liked. That's what they told me. And it turned out it worked out because I was very successful with them and spent almost 30 years. When they gave me a buyout because the company was going to decrease in size somewhat and change around, they had some mergers coming up and they offered me a good deal. So I got a great retirement and my medical for the rest of my life.
That's unbelievable. And now your main gig was basically, for the most part, doing sales for the tobacco companies in the 70s, which I find interesting because tobacco companies and smoking was basically a lifestyle back then. Everyone did it. I mean, you can even see that the movies reflect that were made back in the day. How was it advertising for cigarettes in the 70s? I can imagine it is much different today than it was back then. What exactly did you sell to the consumers? Was it cigarettes, certain tobacco leaves?
Well, actually, it was marketed the same way they did prior to losing the ability to do electronic advertising. Tobacco companies were banned from advertising on radio and television January of 1971. In fact, January 1st, 1971 was the last day, and I remember it quite well. They just bombed the networks with ads because it was the last shot. Well, they had to change way of merchandising, and one thing they did was to go into contracting space to merchandise within the stores. So point of purchase merchandising, you might say. And they did that with displays and carton fixtures, as well as point of purchase material. And of course, they did advertising in magazines and newspapers and billboards. But it was similar to what they had done before. You sold the idea of pleasure. That's what smoking was. There was no nutritious value to it. You didn't smoke because you were hungry. You smoked because you wanted to get some satisfaction.
But some people smoke so they can put a stall to their appetite.
Right, that was true. Some of the companies did advertise to that effect back in the 50s.
Now, looking back, when it comes to selling a product, when you have the mind of a salesperson and someone in marketing, you just want to sell the product to sell the product and make the consumer happy and reach their satisfaction point. But looking back, how do you feel about selling or marketing a product that is now well known to bring a lot of disease within our society?
Well, I mean, how do the people feel about that are going to be selling marijuana, which is now legal, and they say, oh, we're going to allow this? I mean, come on. What's the difference? Or if people, you sell alcohol, tobacco, and this is my personal opinion, probably is not as bad as they make it in most likelihood, because if you don't abuse it. I smoked 5 cigarettes a day.
Really?
I'm in great health.
You can never tell, actually.
Right. But I quit because I didn't want to pay for them anymore. The price went too high.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I didn't abuse it. People who chain smokers are abusing it. It's like being an alcoholic. If you're an alcoholic, it's going to kill you eventually. You can't be without a drink. Well, if you can't be without a cigarette, it's not going to help you either. I think the laws today have made it easier for people not to smoke because you can't smoke anywhere. So you don't smoke as much. They say, well, if you have one, my doctor even said, if you smoke 5 a day, why worry? You don't have anything to worry about. But I quit anyway because, like I said, the price went so high.
Yeah, that people actually travel out of state to buy cigarettes up in New Hampshire because it's cheaper. They buy the boxes there. And so you mentioned about the marijuana industry, which is great because that was the next thing I was going to ask you about, along with some other things, is how do you feel about some of the products the tobacco industry tries to push nowadays, such as electronic vapes, the liquid flavored nicotine oils, which you say vaping is healthier, but you see the segments on the news, those news stories saying that that's not really the case. It's about equivalent to smoking cigarettes. And what's your point of view on the legal marijuana industry and the future of it within the Commonwealth?
Well, here again, you got people in medicine saying, well, if you're vaping, it's the same as smoking cigarettes. Well, what is smoking marijuana? If you're smoking marijuana, isn't that the same as smoking cigarettes? You can't tell me there's no tar in marijuana. So what they probably say, well, you don't smoke as many. Well, here again, you'll have marijuana chain smokers. I'll guarantee you that if it's available.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, too, with the vaping, what brought vaping on was the people saying, well, you can't have secondhand smoke. Well, there's no secondhand smoke with vaping. It's steam. It's a mist. So I don't know. And as far as nicotine, well, they never said nicotine was the problem until it became vaping. They used to say it was the tar. Well, there's no tar in vaping. They do put nicotine in because people want it. Why do they put caffeine in Coke? Because people want caffeine. Mm-hmm. Why is caffeine in coffee? Because people want caffeine. Well, they want nicotine. You can buy vaping products that don't have nicotine. I don't agree with the flavoring. I don't think that's necessary. And if that's appealing to a younger audience, that's totally wrong to do. But I'm out of the industry, so I don't have any connections to that or whatsoever.
What would you say would be some of the pros and cons with legal marijuana? Do you think it will help our economy?
I don't think you're going to see the tax revenues that the pro-marijuana industry talks about. I mean, come on. It's skyrocketed high. And then here again, well, look, you want people to quit smoking, but you tax that. Well, you want people to quit marijuana, you're going to tax it? The thing is, too, you're allowed to grow your own under the law. People probably grow their own and not even bother buying it, and that's not going to be taxed. And is it addicting? Well, come on. Any habit is addicting. You can get addicted to eating Oreo cookies. So don't tell me you can't get addicted to marijuana.
I completely agree with you there, Harry. And so these legal marijuana business guys, you got to say, are one of a kind when it comes to sales and marketing and throwing out their pitch about, medical health benefits, marijuana is actually good for you, or whatever their argument is. So in your opinion, coming from a sales guy, what makes a good sales marketing guy?
Someone who believes in their product, and doesn't matter what the product is. Look, people were going to buy cigarettes because I particularly sold a particular brand. Has nothing to do with whether people are going to buy cigarettes, and I'm selling the quality of my particular product, and that's what I do. I've always been in sales. When I left the tobacco industry, I went to work for one of my distributors I used to sell to. So I went to work for a distributor of not just tobacco, but tobacco, candy, groceries, and I sold all the products. I left there. I went to work selling rubbish carts. Then I went to work marketing for a company called Acosta, but there were no sales involved there. That was more or less going into stores and doing marketing. But now I'm in radio. I'm selling advertising. Selling is selling. It's knowing your product and getting across to the customer the advantages of your product over the advantages of a competitor or other products similar.
Could you tell us about how you got involved with Northbridge Community Television, and how does community television help or reach out to the community?
Okay, well, that goes way back. I've been doing it for got to be over 25 years now. I started out when the town was talking about changing its style of government to town manager government, and we of course changed the charter. And I was invited onto a committee, and on that committee I was invited to go on a TV show on local access. Well, one of the producers there said, "Gee, you're like a natural for TV. You ought to do a show." So it's okay. So I took the course that we had to take at the time, and I started doing a show. I've been doing that show now ever since, and I now I do 3 shows a week now. But that's how I got involved. And then as it went along, I went on to the Cable Advisory Committee, and when the town decided to go to a non-profit entity to run the cable access station, I was picked by the Board of Selectmen to do that, and I got elected president by the Board of Directors. And I think it's important to know what local access does is it gives you local issues that can be put on TV for anyone who has cable within the community to watch. But now, even more so, because most access stations have gone onto the internet, you can watch it anywhere in the world, as well as they cover local meetings. You're on a business trip or on vacation, you wanted to catch a selectmen's meeting, well, you can watch it on the internet. We don't do it live, but it'll be on there on demand. I think it's a very important factor within a community that allows for bulletins to be put on to talk about events that are coming up in the community. It allows for people in the community to come on and talk about what they're doing and what events they have coming up. It's a great medium that doesn't cost anybody any money. I mean, paid for by the cable companies. They do, of course, I'm sure they added on to the bill, but it's minuscule, and it allows for so much to be done. In Northbridge, we have 3 channels. We have a local access channel, a government channel, and an education channel. So the school gets the chance to really put out what they're doing so people can see that come into the community, what's going on at their school system. What are they doing? The kids are allowed to get on there, and they put their own stuff together. It's a great medium, and now it's brought down to local.
And do you think that a lot of communities today are more connected than they were before, or less connected?
Oh, I think they're more connected now. I mean, if you look at the local newspapers, used to have local sections. In fact, the Telegram and Gazette, which you might say is our local paper here in Worcester County, they had field offices in a lot of the communities. They don't have them anymore. Their local pagers have very limited news. So where do you get the local stuff? Where do you hear the local stuff? Yes, we can get local access in. I mean, the TV stations aren't going to cover it. The radio stations are going to cover it to a minimal extent. You're not really going to get that information unless you have local access.
I completely agree. And so how do you see the future for local cable and AM radio?
Well, AM was smart because it's not a good medium for broadcasting music, obviously, because you can't do it in stereo. I know there is a talk one time of AM stereo, but I don't think it ever came about. People want music, they went to FM. Now they're going to the internet. So even the FM stations that do music are going to have a hard time. But AM offers something that you can't get anywhere else, and that's talk radio, which if you're in I was in sales I've been in sales for many years. Salespeople love talk radio because it's someone, maybe you're not talking to them, but it's someone to listen to while you're driving between sales calls.
Oh, that's a good point.
While you're on the road all day. So I think it's people and truck drivers love talk radio too, because it's somebody keeping you company. So I think talk radio is there. And of course, you can do like WCRN does. You got a mix. They don't just do political talk. They're giving you the news in the morning. And I hear comments from people how, oh, I love that news because I'm watching the news on Fox 25. I think they still call it Fox.
Yeah, Fox Boston 25.
Yeah, I know they were bought out though. But
Yeah,
Boston
Cox
25.
Media.
Yeah, they walk out the door and put on CRN and continue listening to what they already heard. You know, they continue hearing the news. That's what's going on. And then we got a lot of interesting variety of programming on WCRN, from retirement to lawyers, money shows. I mean, it's just amazing. And of course, you got Howie Carr, who's one of the most entertaining talk show hosts I ever knew. Guy is unbelievable. He just really very entertaining, very good at what he does.
Definitely.
And he started out as a newspaper guy. And look, he never went to broadcasting school.
I would think that a guy like him did.
No, he started out as a newspaper man. Worked for the Boston Herald and got into TV but he's the natural. In fact, if you look at a lot of talk show hosts on the radio, a lot of them didn't go to broadcasting school. They got celebrity status somehow and then got a talk show.
Yeah, the opportunity open up for them.
Right.
And yeah, a lot of these guys, I don't want to say they're not journalists. I mean, Howie Carr would definitely be more of a journalist because he was actually in like the courtrooms during the whole Whitey Bulger scenario out in Boston.
He covered things for the Herald. That's why he was a journalist.
A lot of these guys are like entertainers. Like I know you could say that the Boston Herald radio show, those guys are entertainers. They're talk show hosts, you know.
Right.
They might read the news or tell the news, but they're not really 100% reporters, and that includes myself. Like for my own radio show, I want to say I'm a journalist. I would say I'm more of an entertainer and opinionated talk show host.
Right. You don't need to go to broadcasting school for that. But, you know, if you want to get into broadcasting, it's not a bad idea. I'm a big supporter. In Northbridge High, for years I said they should have a broadcasting course, and they do now. The superintendent initiated the Career Academy, she calls it, and one of the things that they do is a course on broadcasting, which fills up every year because people are interested. I mean, and the future is, if radio eventually dies, the internet is going to take over. And things like that can happen. I mean, I see TV changing in the future, too. You're seeing more and more internet TV where people go to a website to watch TV. I think you're going to see more of that.
Yeah, definitely. So you think eventually everything's just going to be on the internet?
That's a strong possibility. I mean, who knows what the future brings? I mean, who foreseen that the internet would ever exist? And I mean, here we got, I like to compare it to the Library of Alexandria back in the time of the pharaohs. I mean, the Library of Alexandria held all the information of the world. Of course, it got destroyed in an earthquake, but now we have what we might call the Library of Alexandria in the internet. If you want to find anything out, you do a search, and it's amazing what comes up.
Oh, yeah, I agree, being someone that grew up with the internet more than compared to your generation. So to me, it's just mind-blowing and kind of like, it's almost too good and too easy to just look up stuff because you don't really, a lot of kids, especially now, don't have the experience of growing up and having to go to a library and how to do the alphabetical order, which shelf to look at.
Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah, pretty sure many people my age completely forgot about that term, the Dewey Decimal System.
Right. I mean, you think about it, the library was a necessary part. Getting through high school, you need to get to the library. When you get to college, you need to get to the college library to look up information. Well, now you sit at home and turn on your laptop and do a search, okay, and look at tons of information comes up. The only problem is you got to be able to figure out which is right and which is accurate, because the internet can be full of disinformation.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful. I mean, and that calls for research.
Exactly. Hey, Harry, we only have a couple of minutes left. If people want to contact you to do business for advertisement on WCRN, how can they get in contact with you?
Oh, very easily. My email is probably the best. Here's how we communicate today. And that is BERKYO, Berkio, the digit 1, at Charter Communications, CHARTER.net. Also, you can call my number at 508 877-769-1591. I'll get back to you right away. I always answer my phone. I answer it personally. Nobody answers it for me. I get to reply to emails immediately. I check it day and night. I mean, you have to be in touch all the time. And now, look at with smartphones, we walk around as information. It's unbelievable what today has brought.
It is. It's almost a little too much at times.
Yes,
unless you're being productive, doing
Right.
business 24/7. But you even need to take a break with that at times too. But Harry, I would like to thank you for coming on to my show to talk a little bit about your sales background and experience in the tobacco industries and talk about Northbridge Community Television and AM radio.
Well, thank you, Pat. I'm glad to be here. In fact, I love working for WCRN. It's been a great job. I love it, and I'm glad I'm here.
Hey, we're glad to have you here, Harry. And once again, thank you for your time.
This has been WCRN Weekend and your host, Pat Rice.